I was in the grocery store checkout line when my phone buzzed. Unknown number. I almost ignored it. Then I heard Lydia's voice, barely above a whisper. "Miss Amora, I hear crying under the floor." My blood went cold. "What? Where are you?" Lydia was the cleaner at Grant's house. My ex-husband's house. Where my daughter Nia was supposed to be watching cartoons right now. "I'm here working," Lydia said, her voice shaking. "Mr. Grant told me to ignore the noise and keep cleaning. But Miss Amora, it sounds like a child." I abandoned my cart right there in the middle of the line. People stared. I didn't care. My hands shook so badly I could barely grip my car keys. I drove like my lungs had forgotten how to breathe. Every red light felt like an eternity. When I pulled up to Grant's pristine house on Maple Ridge, his car sat in the driveway. Perfect lawn. Perfect hedges. Perfect lie. I ran to the front door and pounded. Grant opened it slowly. He was smiling. Too calm. Too controlled. "Amora," he said smoothly. "You're not scheduled to see Nia today." I heard it then. A muffled whimper from somewhere below. Faint but unmistakable. My hands shook as I tried to push past him. Grant's smile dropped. I spotted it immediately. A floor hatch in the hallway I'd never seen before. Fresh wood. New screws. Clean work. I dropped to my knees and reached for it. Grant grabbed my wrist hard. "You're overreacting," he hissed. "Nia is fine. She's just being dramatic." Lydia stood frozen in the doorway behind him. Terrified but refusing to leave. "Open it," I demanded. My voice came out stronger than I felt. Grant wouldn't move. I pulled out my phone and dialed emergency services. Grant laughed. Actually laughed. "Go ahead. Call them. I'll tell them you're unstable." The whimper came again. Closer now. Definitely from under the hatch. Lydia moved quietly. She slid me a small flat tool from her cleaning kit. A pry bar. I jammed it under the edge of the hatch and pulled. The wood groaned. Grant lunged for me. "Stop. You're going to hurt yourself." I didn't stop. The hatch popped open with a crack. Cold air rushed out. It smelled like dust and damp concrete and fear. I looked down into darkness. A single utility bulb flickered below. Then I heard the voice that broke my heart. Small. Scared. "Mum. My daughter. My Nia. Under the floor." I climbed down into the shallow crawl space without thinking. The ceiling was low. I had to crouch. Nia sat curled on an old foam mat in the corner. Her eyes were swollen. Red. Like she'd been crying for hours. She clutched her backpack like a lifeline. She wasn't chained. There were no locks down here. The hatch was the lock. I gathered her into my arms. She was shaking. "I'm here, baby. I'm here." I turned to climb back out. Grant was standing at the top of the ladder. Emergency responders were at the door behind him. 2 officers. Grant's face had shifted again. Concerned father now. "Officers, thank God you're here. My ex-wife broke into my home and terrified our daughter." He was staging it. Right in front of me. Weaponizing my panic. Lydia's voice cut through. Shaking but firm. I called her. I heard the child crying under the floor. I was scared. Grant's face flashed with fury. Then smoothed again like oil on water. One of the officers looked at him. Then at me holding Nia. Then at the hatch. Grant pulled out a folder from somewhere. "I have documentation. A temporary custody order. She's not supposed to be here." My stomach dropped. "What custody order?" Grant spread papers across his kitchen counter. Screenshots of text messages I'd sent him. Taken out of context. An edited voicemail where my voice sounded frantic. A neat timeline that painted me as volatile. Unstable. Dangerous. I couldn't breathe. Nia clung to my coat. Lydia insisted the hatch had been screwed shut. Grant said calmly, "It's for safety. The crawl space needed to be sealed." Then he dropped another bomb. "I filed an emergency motion last week. Her home was deemed unsafe. Late rent notices. Unstable environment." I felt the walls closing in. He'd been preparing this. Planning it. I pulled out my phone with shaking hands and called Priya Desai. My solicitor. She answered immediately. Amora, what's happening? I put her on speaker. Her voice was steady. Calm. Say nothing emotional. Record everything. Document every single thing. One of the officers was looking at Grant's phone on the counter. A notification had lit up the screen. Transfer complete. Grant noticed and flipped the phone over quickly. But I'd seen it. So had the officer. What transfer? The officer asked. Grant smiled. Just moving funds into a trust for Nia's school. Normal financial management. But something in his voice was wrong. Too smooth. Too rehearsed. Priya's voice came through my phone speaker. Amora, did you share any accounts with Grant? I remembered. The old joint account Grant insisted we keep. For Nia's school expenses. Emergency funds. I hadn't touched it in months. Yes, I said quietly. Priya's tone turned sharp. That's not a trust. That's optics. He's moving money to look responsible. The officers said they couldn't hand over Nia without clarity on the custody situation. Grant offered a compromise. His voice was gentle. Reasonable. Amora can visit. At set hours. Supervised, of course. For Nia's stability. He said it like he was doing me a favor. I wanted to scream. Lydia touched my arm. Whispered so only I could hear. I have something. I need to show you. My heart jumped. What? Not here. In your car. After the officers left with promises to follow up, after Grant closed his door with Nia still inside, I sat in my car with Lydia. She pulled out a small keychain. It had a camera built in. I wear this, she said quietly. For safety. After I was assaulted at another job. I didn't mention it because I was scared to lose work. She pressed a button. A small screen lit up. It recorded what he said before you arrived. Lydia played the clip. The audio was clear. Grant's voice. Cold. Calculated. If she cries, let her. She needs to learn. Then another line that made my blood freeze. Her mother will believe anything if you say the word child. I stared at the screen. He'd planned this. All of it. Priya listened over the phone. We don't post this online. We don't threaten him with it. We document it. We use it in court. My rage sharpened into focus. I stopped shaking. Started thinking. Priya filed an immediate motion to challenge the emergency custody order. She requested a welfare review of Grant's home. Grant countered fast. He accused Lydia of trespassing. Of illegal recording. Then Lydia's phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Keep your mouth shut or your son gets reported. Lydia's hands started shaking. She looked at me with tears in her eyes. My son. His immigration paperwork. It's complicated. If anyone looks too closely. I understood immediately. Grant wasn't just controlling me. He was willing to destroy anyone who helped me. My voice came out steady. We'll protect you. I promise. Lydia nodded, but I could see the fear. Grant had found her weakness. And he was using it. Priya arranged for Lydia to speak with a legal aid clinic. They helped lock down her rights. Explained that witness intimidation was a crime. That reporting immigration status as retaliation was illegal. I offered to pay Lydia's missed wages. She refused. I don't want charity, but I will take help. I drove her home. Made sure she felt safe. Meanwhile, Grant posted online. A polished statement. As a devoted father, I prioritize stability for my daughter during this difficult time. The comments flooded in. People praising him. Calling him strong. Responsible. I felt like I was screaming underwater. Nobody could hear me. Priya reminded me. Courts don't care who sounds calm. They care who can prove reality. My next move was to request Nia's school records. Notes from her counselor. Any documentation of concerns. The school replied within a day. We have concerns about Nia's well-being. However, we were instructed to route all communications to Mr. Grant only. My jaw clenched so hard my teeth hurt. Grant had cut me off. Made it look official. Made it look like I was the problem. Priya filed to correct the school contact forms immediately, and to subpoena any records Grant had intercepted. I discovered Grant had changed everything. Emergency contact forms listed me as not authorized. He'd told the school I was in treatment for instability. None of it was true, but it was on paper. Official looking. Priya filed for immediate correction and subpoenaed all records. I got a supervised visit with Nia. 1 hour. In a cold room with a supervisor watching everything. Nia was quiet. Too quiet. Too compliant. She sat with her hands folded. Didn't run to me like she used to. When I said Grant's name, she flinched. Baby, what's wrong? I kept my voice soft. She looked at the supervisor. Then back at me. Daddy said if I tell you things, you'll go away forever. My heart shattered. But I kept my face calm. That's not true. I'm not going anywhere. I asked her gently. Where did you sleep last night? Nia hesitated. Looked at the door like Grant might walk in. Then she whispered. The floor. Under the floor. Sometimes. Before I could ask more, the supervisor stood. Time's up. Grant was waiting outside. Smiling. He leaned close as I walked past. See? She's fine. I took a photo of Nia's scraped elbow. Small but visible. Grant noticed and grabbed my phone. Then remembered the supervisor was watching. He handed it back. Laughed like it was a joke. Priya advised me to request a child psychologist evaluation. Grant agreed. Too quickly. Priya's voice was suspicious. He's probably already prepped her with scripts. Lydia sent me another message that evening. I found something else. Under the sink cabinet. Taped envelope. I drove to meet her at a coffee shop. She handed me a manila envelope marked contingency in Grant's handwriting. Inside were printed instructions. A schedule of incident triggers. Phrases Grant expected Nia to repeat. Mum yells. Mum scares me. I feel safer with Dad. There was also a list of phone numbers. A PR consultant. A private investigator. A friendly mediator. Grant had engineered a complete narrative. Priya's voice went low when I called her. This isn't custody. This is brand management. I felt my rage turn cold. Surgical. The revenge I needed couldn't be emotional. It had to be precise. Legal. Permanent. Priya filed for a forensic review of all of Grant's submissions. She requested metadata on the edited voicemail. On the screenshots. On everything. Grant responded with escalation. He served me with a restraining request. Claimed I'd broken into a crawlspace and endangered a child. The hearing was set. 72 hours away. I barely slept for 3 days. Priya coached me constantly. Calm tone. Clean timeline. No emotion. Just facts. Lydia provided a sworn affidavit. The supervisor from my visit agreed to testify that Grant had tried to grab my phone. Then the forensic lab returned results early. Grant's voicemail evidence had been clipped and stitched together. Edited to sound worse than it was. Priya smiled for the first time. We have him. But Grant had his own witness. A neighbor who claimed I'd screamed at the door. Threatened Grant. The neighbor read from a statement that sounded too polished. Too rehearsed. I watched carefully. The neighbor kept glancing at Grant. Looking for approval. For confirmation. Priya noticed too. She leaned close and whispered. We can break this. If we find leverage. That night, Priya ran a background check on the neighbor. Found a connection. The neighbor's brother worked for Grant's company. The witness wasn't neutral. Next, I remembered something. Grant had bragged about his smart home security system. Cameras everywhere. If he had recordings, he had evidence. Unless he'd deleted it. Either way, it proved intent. Priya filed a preservation request for all smart home footage. Grant panicked. I could tell because he made a mistake. He texted me from his main number, then deleted it. But I'd already taken a screenshot. The text read, "Drop Ladia or you'll never see Nia alone again." Clear. Direct. Threatening. Priya entered it as evidence of witness intimidation. Grant claimed it was fake. Priya requested phone provider logs to prove it was real. I got another supervised visit. This time I brought a small notebook. Played a game with Nia. Draw where you sleep, baby. Draw your room. Nia drew carefully. A rectangle. A hatch. A stick figure in darkness. The supervising officer watched. Her face changed. Concerned. Disturbed. Grant saw the drawing and grabbed it. Kids draw nonsense. It doesn't mean anything. The officer held out her hand. "Sir, please return that." Grant's composure cracked. Just for a second. He handed it back. But his jaw was tight. After the visit, the officer pulled me aside. "I'm filing a concern report. This needs to be investigated." Relief flooded through me. Someone official was finally listening. Grant tried to intercept it. Tried to explain it away. But the report was already filed. Already in the system. Priya added it to our motion. The pattern was building. Piece by piece. Document by document. Grant thought he could control the narrative. But the truth was catching up to him. A child welfare check was triggered. Grant scrambled. He renovated the crawl space overnight. Removed the foam mat. Painted the hatch. Replaced the screws. He thought cleaning up would erase history. But Lydia had taken photos. Before and after. She documented house conditions for her own protection. Always. The photos were time-stamped. Dated. Clear. Priya collected them and added them to the motion. She requested an independent home assessment. Grant went for revenge. He contacted my workplace. Left anonymous tips that I was unstable. Unreliable. A risk. I was called into a meeting with my manager. Unexpected. Unscheduled. My stomach churned. My manager looked uncomfortable. "Amora, we received some concerning information. Is there something we should know?" I stayed composed. Kept my voice steady. "There's a custody dispute. I'm cooperating fully with legal proceedings. My solicitor can confirm everything." Priya sent a formal notice within the hour. Warning Grant against harassment and interference with employment. Then I received a private message. From the PR consultant Grant had hired. "I can make this go away. Sign a confidential parenting agreement. Move forward peacefully." It was a gag order with a pretty name. I realized then what Grant feared most. Not court. Not consequences. Exposure. Priya said it clearly. "We don't expose him on the internet. We expose him in court. And we do it clean." The child psychologist met with Nia. Grant insisted on being present. The psychologist denied him. "This is a private evaluation." Alone in the room, Nia finally spoke. She told the psychologist Grant called the crawlspace the quiet place. That he said it's where dramatic girls go to calm down. The psychologist flagged it immediately. Coercive control. Psychological manipulation. Grant responded by offering me a deal. Full custody to him. Visitation rights for me. A small financial settlement. If I dropped all allegations. My voice didn't shake when I answered. "No." Grant's eyes went hard. Cold. "Then you'll lose everything, Amora." Priya received notice the next day. Grant had filed a motion accusing me of parental alienation. Trying to turn Nia against him. It was absurd. But it was also strategic. Priya explained. "If he accuses you of alienation, he opens the door. We can request a deeper forensic review of his behavior. His communications. Everything." Grant hadn't thought that through. He'd made another mistake. Lydia called me that evening. I remembered something. Grant often took calls in the garage. He talked about the floor plan. about keeping her contained. Lydia checked her camera logs. The keychain camera auto-saved audio sometimes. Short fragments. She found them. Grant's voice. She won't act up if she knows there's a place. Another clip. Discipline means control. They need to understand consequences. It wasn't complete evidence. But it was his voice. His words. His intent. Priya nearly laughed. He incriminated himself in pieces. She scheduled an emergency hearing to modify custody immediately. Court day arrived. Grant wore a tailored suit. Spoke softly. Held a framed school photo of Nia like a prop. I arrived with my binder. Affidavits from Lydia. Time-stamped photos. Audio fragments. Metadata proving edited evidence. School communications showing interference. Grant's lawyer argued it was a discipline misunderstanding. That the crawlspace was for storage. That Nia had wandered down there herself. Priya's response was one sentence. Discipline is not confinement. The judge reviewed everything. Then made a temporary ruling. Shared custody pending full review. But Nia would move to my primary residence immediately. Grant's visits would be supervised. Grant's face didn't change. But his hand clenched into a fist under the table. Outside court, he walked past me. Whispered low enough that only I could hear. You've just made this public. You'll regret it. Grant didn't go online with his threats. He went sideways. Filed a complaint against Lydia for illegal recording. Tried to have her investigated by authorities. Priya neutralized it quickly. The recordings were incidental. Used to report suspected harm. Legal under the circumstances. I set up a routine for Nia at my apartment. Consistent bedtimes. Healthy meals. Therapy twice a week. Nia started sleeping through the night. For the first time in months, she laughed. Then a package arrived at my door. No return address. Inside was a children's book. The title read, Lying Girls Get Taken Away. No note. No name. But I knew. My hands didn't shake anymore. I called Priya immediately. Sent her photos of the package. The book. The postmark. That's intimidation, she said. We're upgrading the case. While investigating Grant's finances, Priya found irregularities. The child trust he'd mentioned wasn't a trust at all. It was an account used to shuffle money during the custody dispute. To appear responsible. To look stable. Priya petitioned for full financial disclosure. Grant refused. The judge ordered it. Grant panicked. Offered me a larger settlement. With a confidentiality clause. I refused again. Nia's therapist contacted Priya. I need to share something. Nia revealed Grant made her practice a sentence. Over and over. Mum scares me. Dad protects me. The therapist asked if she should submit a formal statement. I didn't hesitate. Yes. Priya built the pattern methodically. Coercion. Intimidation. Staged narratives. Financial manipulation. Witness pressure. Workplace interference. The case became bigger than just a hatch in the floor. Grant's attorney requested mediation. To reduce conflict. To find middle ground. Priya agreed. Because mediation forced disclosures. Forced conversations on record. In the mediation room, Grant tried to stay calm. But pressure was building. He complained that I'd ruined the crawlspace plan. He said plan like it was normal. Like everyone had one. The mediator went still. The court-appointed observer made a note. Grant tried to laugh it off. I meant the renovation plan. The storage plan. But it was too late. Everyone had heard it. Priya smiled without warmth. Thank you for clarifying. After mediation, the observer filed a report. Noted the slip. Noted Grant's response. Noted the overall pattern of concerning behavior. The next hearing was scheduled. This time for final orders. Priya presented everything. The recordings. The photos. Nia's drawings. The therapist's statement. The metadata showing edited evidence. The intimidation package. Grant attempted tears. Performative. Practiced. The judge didn't buy it. The court issued a protective arrangement. Grant's access would remain supervised indefinitely. No direct contact with Lydia. Strict non-harassment orders regarding my employment. Any violation would trigger immediate review. Grant left the courthouse furious. But he was out of moves. Almost. He filed to sell his house. Claimed he needed to downsize. Move somewhere more affordable. Priya's eyes narrowed. Let him sell. That's how we catch what is hiding. During the sale process, disclosures were legally required. An inspector found evidence of recent modifications. New hatch hardware. Fresh paint over older stains. Ventilation adjustments inconsistent with normal storage. The inspector flagged it in his report. Potential safety violations. Questioned the purpose of the modifications. Worse for Grant, the smart home company produced access logs. Multiple basement access events during times Nia was supposedly asleep upstairs. The timestamps didn't match Grant's story. Everything was falling apart for him. His carefully constructed narrative was collapsing under documentation. He tried to withdraw the house from sale. But it was too late. Paper trails existed. Reports had been filed. Priya looked at me. We can now argue intentional confinement. With corroboration. Grant's lawyers came back within days. With a surrender offer. I'd get primary custody. Grant would have monitored visitation only. He'd pay all legal costs. The offer included one condition. I wouldn't pursue further legal action. Wouldn't file additional complaints. Wouldn't speak publicly about the case. I looked at Nia sleeping peacefully in her bed. She'd started drawing again. Pictures of sunshine. Of our apartment. Of herself smiling. I chose revenge with heart. Not cruelty. Not public humiliation. Safety. Consequences. Protection. Priya negotiated terms carefully. Mandatory parenting intervention for Grant. Ongoing professional supervision. A standing order that would trigger automatic review if he violated anything. Grant signed the agreement. His jaw was tight. His pride was wounded. But he signed. Humiliated without spectacle. Defeated by documentation. I received one last message from Grant's number. This isn't over. Priya replied on my behalf. Simple. Direct. It is. Months passed. Nia grew brighter. Started laughing again. Thrived in school. Made friends. Slept through the night without nightmares. Lydia got a new job with a family that respected her. Treated her fairly. I quietly helped by connecting her with reputable clients. She thanked me with tears in her eyes. Grant tried testing boundaries once. Arrived 15 minutes early to a supervised visit. The supervisor documented it immediately. Shut it down. Consequences were swift now. Automatic. No second chances. I moved to a new apartment. Checked every floor. Every lock. Every window. I realized something important one evening. My revenge wasn't about destroying Grant. It was about removing his power. Legally. Financially. Socially. Without becoming him. Without using his tactics. I'd won by staying calm. By documenting everything. By letting the system work the way it was supposed to. Nia and I developed new routines. Friday movie nights. Saturday morning pancakes. Sunday park visits. Simple things that felt like miracles. One night, Nia looked up from her homework. Mum, can I ask you something? Always. She hesitated. Will I have to go back to the quiet place? My throat tightened. Never, baby. Never again. She nodded. Went back to her homework. Satisfied. Safe. Grant tried one more manipulation. Sent a letter through his lawyer. Said he wanted to rebuild trust. Wanted family therapy sessions. Wanted to be part of Nia's life in a meaningful way. I showed it to Priya. She read it and looked at me. What do you want to do? I thought about it. Then I asked Nia. Not leading her. Not coaching. Just asking. Your father wants to do therapy together. You, me, and him. With a professional. You can say yes or no. Either is okay. Nia thought for a long time. Then she answered clearly. No thank you. Simple. Firm. A boundary. I let Priya know. She drafted a response. The request was declined per the child's expressed wishes. Grant's lawyer pushed back. Said children shouldn't make adult decisions. That I was influencing her. Priya shut it down. The child has been evaluated by professionals. She has a voice. The court respects it. Grant didn't try again. Years passed. Nia grew. Became confident. Articulate. She joined drama club. Made the honor roll. Talked about university. About her future. I got promoted at work. Built a stable career. Proved Grant's claims of instability were lies. One evening, Nia asked me something I'd been waiting for. Mum, do you ever think about what happened? I set down the dish I was washing. Sometimes. Why? She shrugged. I just wanted to say I remember. But it doesn't hurt as much now. I hugged her. That's because you're healing. You're strong. She smiled. I learned from you. Grant was released from the conditions of his parenting intervention after 3 years. He'd completed all requirements. But the supervised visitation remained. Would remain until Nia was old enough to choose otherwise. He'd remarried. Moved to another town. Tried to rebuild a normal life. I didn't follow it closely. Didn't care about his details. He'd become irrelevant. A person I coordinated with through an app when absolutely necessary. Nothing more. Nia graduated secondary school. Got accepted to university. We cried together looking at the letter. I'm so proud of you. On Nia's 18th birthday, the custody orders technically expired. She could choose contact with Grant if she wanted. She didn't. Didn't even mention it. Just had dinner with friends and planned her move to university. 4 years later, I attended Nia's graduation. Watched her walk across the stage. Confident. Whole. Her own person. After the ceremony, we had dinner. Just us. Mum, can I ask you something? Always. She smiled. Do you think you'll ever stop being angry at him? I thought about it honestly. I'm not angry anymore. I was for a long time. But anger was heavy. I put it down. She reached across the table. Good. You deserve to be happy. So do you, I said. And you are. She nodded. I really am. The revenge I'd chosen years ago had worked exactly as intended. Structural. Legal. Permanent. Grant couldn't rewrite history. Couldn't access my daughter without permission. Couldn't weaponize systems against us anymore. I'd learned something important through it all. Revenge doesn't have to be dramatic to be complete. Sometimes the quietest revenge is the one that removes someone's power forever. Not through cruelty. Through consequences. Through documentation that doesn't care about charm or lies. Grant lived somewhere with his new wife. I lived here with my life. Full of light. Full of peace. Full of proof that surviving isn't the same as winning. But we'd done both. Decades later, after Nia had built her own career and life, I looked back and understood something fundamental. The revenge had never been about Grant at all. It was about reclaiming safety. Teaching my daughter that her voice mattered. That when someone tried to silence her, people would listen if she documented the truth. That the world could be trusted if you knew how to prove reality. Nia became a family law solicitor. Specialized in custody cases involving coercive control. She told me once why she chose it. I do this because I remember what it felt like to be heard. To be believed. I want other children to feel that. I attended a conference where she presented. Watched her speak with authority about the importance of listening to children. Of believing them the first time. Of documenting everything. After her presentation, someone asked, "What made you choose this field?" Nia didn't hesitate. My mum taught me that protection is active. It's documentation. It's boundaries. It's refusing to be quiet when something's wrong. She saved my life by staying calm and building proof. Now I want to help others do the same. I cried in the audience. Proud tears. Healing tears. Lydia reached out through social media years later. Sent me photos of her family. Her son had graduated university. She'd built a successful cleaning business. Hired other immigrant women. Paid them fairly. Treated them with respect. Her message said, "Thank you for not letting him silence me. You saved more than just your daughter that day." On the anniversary of the day Lydia called me, 20 years later, I stood in my garden. Nia was visiting with her own daughter. My granddaughter. 4 years old. Running. Laughing. Free. Nia walked over and stood beside me. "What are you thinking about?" The day Lydia called. The day everything changed. She nodded. "I don't remember all the details. But I remember you never stopped fighting." "I never will," I said. We watched my granddaughter play. Chase butterflies. Pick flowers. Live without fear. This was the revenge. Not Grant suffering somewhere in obscurity. Not public humiliation. Not dramatic confrontation. This. A daughter who grew up whole. Who became someone who protected others. Who knew her voice mattered because I'd fought to make sure it was heard. A granddaughter who would never know what it felt like to be trapped. To be silenced. To be dismissed. Grant had tried to bury us under his floor. Instead, we'd grown. Thrived. Built lives he couldn't touch. Couldn't control. Couldn't diminish. That evening, Nia asked me one final question. "Do you have any regrets?" I thought about it honestly. About the court hearings. The documentation. The sleepless nights. The fear. "No," I said. "Not one." Because every moment of that fight had been worth this. Worth watching my daughter become strong. Become safe. Become someone who taught her own child that flaws are just flaws. That above ground, in the light, is where we belong. Years continued to pass. My granddaughter grew. Started school. Came home with artwork and stories. Normal childhood things. Nia built a career helping families escape situations like ours. She won cases. Saved children. Made a difference. I retired from my job. Spent time gardening. Reading. Living peacefully. Grant existed somewhere. I'd heard through distant connections he'd had more children. Tried to rebuild his reputation. I didn't follow it. Didn't care. He was a stranger now. Someone I'd known once. Someone who'd tried to destroy me. And failed. One afternoon, Nia brought me something. A letter. This came to my office. Forwarded from an old address. It's from Grant's lawyer. I looked at it. Didn't open it immediately. What does he want? To apologize, apparently. To make amends. He's in therapy. Working on himself. Wants to acknowledge what he did. I set the letter down. Do you want me to read it? Nia shook her head. Not unless you want to. I thought about it. Then I put the letter in my shredder. Watched it turn to strips. I don't need his apology. I don't need his acknowledgement. I have everything I need. Nia smiled. Good. Because the truth was simple. Grant's apology wouldn't change anything. Wouldn't undo the fear he'd caused. Wouldn't erase the crawl space. The revenge I'd chosen, the structural kind, had already given me everything. My granddaughter turned 10. The same age Nia had been when she'd started healing fully. We celebrated with cake. With family. With friends who'd supported us through everything. That evening, after everyone left, my granddaughter asked me something. "Grandma, why do you always check the floors?" I'd been doing it without realizing. Every new place. Every hotel. Every friend's house. Checking for hatches. For hidden spaces. For places someone could be trapped. I knelt down to her level. A long time ago, someone tried to hide your mum somewhere she couldn't be heard. I check floors now to make sure no one is hiding. To make sure everyone is safe. She nodded seriously. That's good, Grandma. She hugged me. Then ran off to play. Nia watched from the doorway. You okay, Mum? I smiled. I'm better than okay. That night, I locked my door. Not out of fear anymore. Out of habit. Out of choice. I checked on my granddaughter sleeping in the guest room. Peaceful. Safe. I thought about everything that had happened. The call from Lydia. The hatch. The court battles. The documentation. The victory. The revenge I'd chosen had been quiet. Complete. I hadn't destroyed Grant with cruelty. I'd removed his power with truth. With proof. With consequences that lasted. The floor was just a floor now. And everyone I loved was above ground. In the light. Where they belonged. Safe.